All right, guys, so I was not expecting this from John Harbaugh and the Baltimore Ravens, but they just made a massive hire for a secondary coach that's going to bring the Baltimore Ravens defense to the next level. We're going to break down his history with the organization, plus a bold statement that he made about the Baltimore Ravens being an absolute wagon, as well as some predictions from some ESPN analysts and more about bringing in a free safety like a Trayvon Moehrig or a strong safety like Jeremy Chin. There's some predictions out there, as well as some early draft predictions coming around the corner in April and much more Ravens news, man. So welcome into another episode of Ravens Reports. It's your guy Noah here with For the Flock, as always, bringing you guys our top 5 news reports and storylines coming out of our Ravens today. For all of you guys that are still watching, man, shout out to the For the Flock family that is staying strong with the Ravens going into the offseason. I don't know about you guys, but the offseason is actually one of my favorite times of the year to analyze the roster, see how the Ravens can improve, and analyze the prospects coming out of the draft. I absolutely love the draft. I love free agency, roster building process, and all of that, man. So we're going to have Ravens coverage for you all off season long. Make sure you got your subscribe and notification bell on. And as always, smash the like button if you get any value out of these episodes of Ravens Reports. At number 1, let's dive into the content. Chuck Pagano, a absolute legend, a mastermind defensive coach that has also been a defensive coordinator and a head coach with a lot of success, bringing the Colts to the AFC Championship back in, I think it was 2015 as a head coach. Man, this is a through and through football mind, a guy that can get the guys going. You can see the clip here of Chuck Pagano still having the juice, dancing around, having fun. But he was asked about, when did he start thinking about coming back after retiring in 2020? And he said, man, I've been thinking about it. I just didn't want the full responsibility of being a head coach or a coordinator, but I love football. I'm passionate about it. And he actually went on the Pat McAfee show and talked about his opportunity. And with John Harbaugh and this new coaching staff, I want you guys to take a listen to that, and then we'll talk about some of his history before we get on to the next point.
Ravens gig, my first question would be, when did you start to kind of consider to get back into coaching? We've chatted ad nauseum about, and we started the show with, you football guys, this is kind of what your life is. It is ball. You've been acting as if you're a head guy basically this entire time you've been retired. You show up here, you have 3 notebooks full of notes. You're in calls early in the morning with the 33rd team. You've been acting as if you're still in the league while you've been out of it. But when did you decide, you know what, maybe I should be getting back into this thing?
Probably the day I retired. It walked away in 2020, to be honest. I've always thought about it, Pat, and being around you guys and doing the gig with you and the 33rd team, and then hanging around, Boise State, the coaches here, Pat, it's always been in the back of my mind. It just had to be, the perfect situation. And, obviously, I'm very, very familiar with that organization. That had a ton to do with it. The role is absolutely perfect. I'm really not dying to be a head coach again and have all that responsibility, a coordinator, all the pressure that comes with that. Just an opportunity in this role to go help, John and this organization and that defensive staff, Zach Orr, they've got a great staff over there. So the role was important. Obviously, people matter. I know the people in that organization from the top down. It's the gold standard, Steve Bisciotti, Ozzie, who's was the GM, Eric DaCosta, who's now the GM, John Harbaugh, the staff, everybody in that building. I know all those people. Not much has changed. So it always comes down to people, right, Pat? Just like the people you have there. And, and then the last thing, what'll pull you off the couch is opportunity to win and win it all. They built a phenomenal roster, as we know, right? We've been watching them. They are a wagon from top to bottom. Eric and John and that personnel staff, that coaching staff, they built a roster. They've got a bunch of dudes on both sides of the ball and special teams. So those things, all those things we just chatted about, I've never really stopped. I think you probably knew that. The boys probably knew that. You could feel that. But this opportunity was just too good to pass up.
So I love it, man. He says the Ravens built a wagon. He said there's an opportunity to win it all, and that pulled me off the couch. He said, I know the people there, and it's all about the people, the relationships. He knows the leadership. That's one great thing about this organization is just how much of a well-oiled machine they are, just the leadership and how they run stuff. That's why the Ravens are in playoff contention every single year, Super Bowl contention every single year, and Chuck Pagano only adds to that Super Bowl contention because I'm telling you right now that 32-31 ranked pass defense from early on in the season last year, that you can throw that out the window because first of all, man, the Ravens defense turned it completely around the second half of the season, but now you have two former Baltimore Ravens defensive coordinators on the staff with Dean Pease, who was a Ravens coordinator and had a lot of success, and Chuck Pagano, who was the Ravens coordinator and had the third overall defense and had a lot of success with the Ravens. So you got two masterminds, senior advisory type of roles. Chuck Pagano is going to be focused on the secondary, the senior secondary coach to help out with some of the younger staff there. And he'll have some of these guys right. I'm telling you, man, and that number 2, this is exciting too because Mel Kiper, who absolutely crushes the draft every single year. He's so smart with his predictions and his mock drafts and everything. But he actually, in his first mock draft, had the Baltimore Ravens selecting cornerback Siobhan Revel Jr. out of East Carolina. East Carolina, we know who came from there. ECU, Keaton Mitchell, who the Ravens had a lot of success with, obviously. By the way, Keaton Mitchell going to be, 2 years removed from that gruesome knee injury heading into next season, will be healthy and will be a massive part of the Ravens' weaponry. But going back to the cornerback, imagine Chuck Pagano coming in with some fresh juice as a secondary coach and getting to coach a young core of defensive backs like Kyle Hamilton, Nate Wiggins, who was drafted last year, and then you get another first-round corner and Siobhan Revel Jr., and then Marlon Humphrey. Oh, my goodness, man. This secondary could absolutely be one of the best in the NFL and be an absolute no-fly zone if something like that were to happen where you get Chuck Pagano, which check already done, but then you get another talented corner to add into that room because Brandon Stevens is a free agent. Don't sleep on TJ Tampa. He was a talented guy that was supposed to be about a second-round pick, fell in the draft a little bit. The Ravens snagged him in the 4th round. He had some injuries this year, but don't sleep on TJ Tampa. We know Nate Wiggins, he was one of the only 3 cornerbacks in the NFL in the 2024 season to allow under a 50% completion percentage when targeted. One of 3, and that was with the other company was Kamari Lassiter and Derek Stingley Jr., some really elite corners. So the Ravens secondary is in really good hands with Adarius Washington coming back, Kyle Hamilton coming back, Marlon Humphrey under contract, Nate Wiggins. Then you add another guy early in the draft or in free agency, and man, look out for this secondary. At number 3, speaking of the defense, we know Kyle Van Noy got his first Pro Bowl selection, 12.5 sacks, which was actually 4th in the NFL. He replaced T.J. Watt that was dealing with an injury for the Pro Bowl. But Marlon Humphrey posted a little picture of him heading down to the Pro Bowl with a family. It's also announced that Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry not going to the Pro Bowl. So Drake May replaces Lamar Jackson, and running back James Cook of the Bills replaced Derrick Henry. I just got a feeling that Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, after the way that ended, them so close to a Super Bowl. I mean, we're talking about, just 2 more wins, and they would have been in the Super Bowl, and that heartbreaking loss with the Mark Andrews drop and the turnovers, all that stuff. We don't got to revisit it, but the Ravens were very capable of winning it all this year. They were so balanced on offense, 7th passing offense, 1st rushing offense, and then the defense was playing lights out down the stretch. They were absolutely capable of winning the whole thing. By the way, I still can't believe they didn't have Zay Flowers for the postseason run. I keep thinking about that. But the way that Rashad stepped up and Zay coming back healthy, Keaton coming back healthy, I'm so excited for this offense this upcoming season. Plus the fact that we got Todd Monken back under contract, Derrick Henry back under contract. Derrick Henry put out the post saying, run it back. This team is shaping out. I think this team could even be even better next year. And I think they're going to be in contention for that number 1 seed from the rip. I think they're going to rip off a lot of wins early and often. Look out for this Ravens team that's very hungry. But at number 4, talking about this defense, there's a prediction from ESPN, ESPN's Ben Solak. he predicts that the Ravens will go after safety Trevon Moehrig in free agency this offseason. Now, I also saw some other analysts projecting safety Jeremy Chin to come to the Baltimore Ravens in free agency, but these guys aren't going to be cheap, and the Ravens don't have a lot of salary cap. If the Ravens go and make a big splash like this for a defensive player, that all but guarantees Ronnie Stanley's probably not returning. So Ronnie Stanley, we know he's a free agent. He's going to demand anywhere from $12 to $20 million a year with the type of performance he had as a left tackle at a premium position. I know he's not in his prime anymore, but offensive tackles they can play at a high level for a long time. We see guys do it into their 40s. So Ronnie Stanley's still got some good ball left in him. Will the Ravens be able to afford bringing him back, or do they want to go young and move on? There's some good tackle prospects in the draft. Roger Rosengarten could move over to the left side. That's a big, big point of contention for the Baltimore Ravens this offseason. I'm sure they have already, made plans and backup plans and plan C and plan D. Eric DeCosta has that type of football mind, so I'm sure it'll work out. But imagine the Ravens getting another safety to start next to Darius Washington, so that way Kyle Hamilton could move back to that star nickel blitzer, all over the defense, just creating havoc, dime linebacker type packages. Imagine if the Ravens were to have another starting caliber safety next to Darius Washington in the back for the split safety, 2 high looks, and then Kyle Hamilton roaming around, Marlon Humphrey and Nate Wiggins on the outside, and then Arthur Millette's coming back. So I'm just really excited for the secondary as a whole, man, especially with the new coaching staff. Zach Orton, the second year, and then Chuck Pagano coming back as the senior secondary coach. It just fires me up. We actually didn't cover, Chuck Pagano's history, so let's talk about that real quick. He's coming out of retirement, retired in 2020. He was the Ravens defensive coordinator in 2011, did a heck of a job, and then the Colts hired him as a head coach. So they lost Pagano after 1 year as a DC, but in the years prior, he was the secondary coach from 2008 to 2010. So he went from Ravens secondary coach to Ravens defensive coordinator to Colts head coach, where he brought the Colts to an AFC championship. John Harbaugh said, "It's exciting to add Coach Chuck Pagano to our defensive staff and continue to develop and grow our young and talented secondary. Chuck brings a wealth of knowledge, experience, and coaching talent to our team. He has deep ties to the program and is excited to get to work." 64-year-old Chuck Pagano is a highly respected NFL coach who spent 6 seasons as a head coach for the Colts from 2012 to 2017. After leaving Baltimore following that stint, he had 2 seasons as the Bears defensive coordinator from 2019 to 2020 with some experience with Roquan Smith. So all kinds of familiarity and ties with this Ravens coach that was just brought in, man. I'm so excited for this hire. By the way, as a head coach for the Colts, he had a winning record, 53-43 overall, had 2 division titles. So this guy's a through and through true football mastermind coach. He's a winner, personality, energy, great ad for the Baltimore Ravens. And in 2011, whenever he was the DC for the Ravens defense went from 21st in passing yards allowed to 4th. They went from 9th in passing touchdowns allowed to 1st, and they finished 3rd in both points and yards allowed, and the defense had 17 interceptions. Turnovers are huge, especially in the playoffs. We saw some of these teams like the Chiefs and the Eagles that are in the Super Bowl right now. The common theme is their defense creates a lot of turnovers. So Chuck Pagano is going to help out that secondary to be able to do such. All right, guys, so hit the like button if you got any value out of today's content. I love you guys. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.
When he wasn't looking, he ran me over.